I met a gypsy.
So we'll get into that Atlanta crash then a little bit, like while we're kind of on the topic with G and injuries and training. So do you remember that? Well, did you see the comments I made about that as well, first of all?
Yeah, I saw. I mean, it was crazy, obviously, after it happened. But yeah, I saw that when you guys had that. What was it? It wasn't a podcast, but it was something that you posted.
I think it was on. Maybe it was like with Sleater. Me and Sleater were talking about it after the race. Like,
yeah, I don't know if I saw that one.
Yeah, so I mean, I said like you looked out to me, like you looked like you were knocked out, and I've seen enough, concussions on like UFC and motocross to know that like when a body goes limp in that way, that there's like you've lost consciousness. So that's me just watching TV and speaking out of my ass. So from your the horse's mouth, do you feel like you were out at all through that crash? And like, what can you remember?
I've been knocked out before for sure. I've had concussions, and I could step you through. I mean, obviously when you have a big crash, like it's going crazy, but I'm completely, I opened my eyes as soon as I like stopped flying and moving, and I looked across the stadium. I could see, and I remember the thoughts that went through my head. I was totally awake. I never actually got knocked out. And then I moved my legs. I knew I was like, okay, I can move my legs. And the reason I actually laid there so long and didn't stand up right away was because I got such a bad shock to my groin and my inner thigh that my leg was like dead. Like I could move my toes, but my leg, I couldn't stand up. So when the medics got up there, I was actually telling them like, slide me down. Like, I'm okay, nothing's broke. Slide me down the bridge so we can get me off the track. And they weren't willing to do that. Obviously, I'm sure they saw it and they were like, no, we're not moving you that quick, in case of my neck or anything like that, which was smart of them. But I was like, just get me down. And then finally, my legs started kind of coming back around to where I could move it, and that's when I got back up. But yeah, I mean, I can totally remember hitting the little double, catching the kicker, thinking that shit, my season's over, the championship fight. Like that was my first thought when I looked up and all you could see was dust, and it was not good. But yeah, I was totally awake the whole time, and that was like one of the biggest concerns with the medics and stuff, that they ran me through a bunch of stuff, and Doc's seen me before not in a very good spot too, with after being knocked out, and I felt like they made the right call with my health. Like it was gnarly, but I do know that when you're not in your right mind, if you do get a concussion, you're gonna be like, yeah, let me race,
Yeah.
So like it was a super tough decision for them to make. But yeah, rewatching it, I can totally see how there were a lot of people unhappy about it, thinking that I was knocked out for sure, because I was fairly limp looking. But if you watch it super close, as soon as I land and stop like flipping, my leg moves and my hand kind of moves, and I move like right away. But I just kind of laid there like assessing myself in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, so I was conflicted with it because obviously personally I really like you, and then there's this like, so it is hard because like, so we were watching it live on Supercross Companion, and then I'm seeing it, and then I'm thinking, so like, have you looked too much into like concussions and second impact syndrome and all that sort of stuff, or?
Yeah, I've had a couple, head deals where I've hit my head super bad, and I'm very aware of that. If you have a concussion and you stack a concussion on top of that, not good. Like, and I've always kind of said how will do whatever it takes, and like it doesn't matter. But that's something that I won't mess with, is my head. Like I was pretty confident that I was confident enough to go out and race a main event in Supercross, that I had I was okay with my head, and I was more concerned about my leg and my shoulder. whether it was going to hold up. I didn't know if I tore something in my shoulder or what, but I knew that I would know as soon as I went down the start straight. And then if it wasn't going to work, then I would pull off. But
yeah,
I knew I had to give it a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, so this is the second part of it. So the first part of it is like me sitting in the room being like, dude, if you have hit your head the way that you just did, and then you go out and you hit your head again, this could be extremely bad for your health long term. And I'm speaking on this as I almost watched Robbie Madison die in his front yard by, again, second impact syndrome. Like, he had a crash and then he went out and he hit his head again, got knocked out. He ended up being in a coma for a few days. Like, so I'm like legitimately traumatized around that topic, you know? And it's like, that's the one side of it. So then the second side of it is what you did in that main event after you crashed is maybe one of the more remarkable rides I've ever seen in Supercross. And it set you up with just this insane respect from riders and insane respect from fans. I mean, dude, you earned everybody's respect that night based on the way that you gutted out a performance. And as motocross fans, like, that's what we want from our riders. Like, we hold our head up as like, we're tough guys. Like, we know how to go through it and we'll put our bodies on the line. So you represented everything that like us motocrossers feel about our sport. So Doc Bodner says, no, you can't ride because of hitting your head and it's too risky to your health. I'm fine with it. But on the flip side, we don't get to see that incredible performance that you did. So, I mean, it is a really, really hard topic.
Yeah, totally. I appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard position for the docs to be in for sure, you know, because if they do release me and it doesn't go right, then it's totally on their shoulders, right? Or that's how they feel. And so I imagine that's a really hard position to be in. The AMA, that's a hard position to be in. It was just it was not a good circumstance all around. And, you know, from my standpoint of, you know, how it was like everything, everyone was like, man, that was the most spectacular thing ever. I was like, I'm kind of like, I don't think I'm so gnarly for it. I was just like, I was okay. Like, as long as I'm okay, I go race, like, no matter what. And I believe that a lot of guys in our sport do, especially in the position I'm in. You know, I'm 4 points out of the championship, and there's a lot that comes with winning a championship as a Supercross racer. And so, I mean, like, if I broke a collarbone in that, which is very possible, I'm not able to race. Like, it's not really even physically possible. But I was just fortunate enough to be not actually injured, just banged up. And so, like, I told myself, because I thought the race was over. I actually didn't know what the red flag rules were, first of all.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was what the actual rule was, that I was under the impression that I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But I ran back to my mechanic and I said, head back to the line. We're going to see what we can do. And so we headed back and I told him, I was like, I want to race. And then I was just going to let them figure out what the deal was. If they're going to tell me, no, you have to go back because the red flag was for you, then that's what they tell me. But I can't go out without trying. And like, it just all kind of worked in my favor, and like, it came out and I was able to race. But yeah, it was pretty crazy because it was actually kind of funny how the reaction to that night went from everyone. And then just 4 days later, Saturday, I had a couple things happen.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because you can kind of watch it from the TV or watch it from whatever standpoint and base it off of what happened on Tuesday. And the response to Saturday was, it basically went from, oh my gosh, you're a hero, to what's this guy doing on a dirt bike, and he's not in his right mind. And I mean, you name it, it was said, which it's whatever. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, but trust me, like, for all day, every day for the next 4 days, I was in physicians, I was in doctors, I had concussion tests done, I had, like, you name it, I had it done. I was okay to ride. Like I was perfectly fine to race. My crash in practice was due to I came up short on a quad and it like jacked my leg, and then I crashed. Like that was it. It wasn't because I wasn't mentally clear. I mean, I qualified second.
Yeah.
And then the first race of the first start of the main event on Saturday, I ran wide, like it was like a kind of a double apex first turn into a rhythm section. Well, I was far left, and I kind of got jumped into, pushed wide into the tough blocks, caught a tough block, and it shot me underneath the pack. And Chris Blows crashed off me, which was like terrible. I hate to see that. But immediately it's turned into, the reason that happened was because of X, Y, and Z, what happened prior. And
correlation
it had nothing
equals
to do with
causation.
It. I mean,
brother.
It was
that's the
absolutely,
internet.
yeah,
That's
totally. And I mean, like, I would never want what happened there to happen. And then I had a goofy crash, actually with my teammate in the whoops. Like him and someone else got together, and we've laughed about it now, but they got together and he was crashing, and I ran into the back of him because I don't know if all you guys have ever skimmed a set of Supercross whoops, but when you're doing it, you can't really stop in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And so I ran into the back of him while he was crashing and kept him up, and then I crashed. And so it was just like it spiraled out of control, and then it was just kind of such a bummer the way that ended because, like I did everything I could possible to keep myself in the fight, and then I was out of the fight after that night. But, that was a huge learning curve. Like basically from the first Atlanta, from the heat race of the first Atlanta to the end of Atlanta, it was like, it seemed so disastrous for me. Like I had such a consistent season all the way up until there. And like, that was something that I've really focused on in the last actually 2 years. Like that was been my main focus since I started working with Nick and working with this team and all the people I have around me, is that, everyone is pretty aware that I will leave everything out on the track. That's pretty obvious with me. But the one thing that I needed to fix was my consistency, my, bringing it down a notch and actually being aware of all the things that's going on. And like, I felt like I had that dialed in all the way. Like I had great heat races. I was on the podium every race but one in Texas. And so like, it was going so great. And then it just like exploded.
The wheels
in Atlanta.
came off the wagon.
But I still felt like I was able to manage it pretty well. Like I still podiumed the first two Atlantas, won my heat race in the second one, like, and then like the third one, it just, the wheels fell off, and it was just such a bummer. Like it was a lot of learning though. That's one thing. Like I learned so much because like I definitely learned that you win them or lose them on your bad nights. That's for sure. And that's like, watching the 450 guys, we only race 9 rounds. They race 17. Like, and for those guys to gun so hard for 17 rounds, it's consistency. That's how you win it. And like, I'm glad I'm going through this learning curve now. That way here in a couple of years when I, hopefully do have the opportunity to be on a 450 and competing up top there, that, you've gone through these things.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.